So, John from Weaver Associates, thank you for joining us. We're wearing your fine apparel. I love these shirts. The former outlet shirts have now become my, when I'm home, office day shirts or uh, going out shirts, and I'm not like dressing up per se. Uh, Even though it's a collared shirt, that my old outlet shirts become my shirt. It's kind of funny. My grandfather was always known for wearing a sport coat. I've become around the house as, oh, there's Dad with his black golf shirt. So we love him. Very comfortable.
So Weaver Associates has a couple of food truck clients. Tell us more about that. First tell us who Weaver Associates is.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah.
Maybe our listeners don't know. And
Sure.
then tell us about your food truck clients and what they get from you guys.
So Weaver Associates, we kind of have our hand in lots of things, but our motto is we help you put ink on paper. So whether that is selling you the printer itself, the supplies for the printer, or we have a full service print shop that can print it for you. So just depends on the job, the scope of the job, and we can kind of help you out with that. But we do have a couple food trucks. Vinny and those guys is a pizza shop down on Strasburg Pike. They have a food truck. We print their menus for them. DK Smoke and Barbecue is another barbecue, smoked brisket beef stand. We pretty much do everything for them. We do a lot of all their apparel, their business cards, working on menus. We did the magnets for the side of their truck that they pull their gear behind. So kind of run the gamut with them.
Yeah, you're really kind of a one-stop shop for really any type of business, because every business needs business cards and printed materials and signs and posters and restaurants with menus. I mean, you're kind of a one-stop shop for all that stuff.
John's even
Right.
doing postcards for my kids' grass cutting side hustle.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's we pretty much say if there's anything that gets printed, give us a call. If we can't do it, we'll find you the right person to do it. But we do a lot of ad specialty, so even your trinkets and your tchotchkes that you would give away, we can do those.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Well, we've known John for a long time. Well, Ben longer than I. John, you and I have known each other for about 10 years now, actually. Our
Yep.
10-year of knowing each other anniversary is coming up. Did you know that?
It is. Yes.
It is.
He's got it marked on the calendar.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah.
You,
It's my
you and me. You and me, man.
friend anniversary.
So John, yeah, you started out on the delivery truck at Gardner's way back in 2001, 20 years ago. Obviously, you've moved on to bigger and better things for yourself and your career from Gardner's. But just maybe talk a little bit about old Gardner's, who we were, and just share a little bit about that old time.
Sure. So, as Jeff said, Ben and I have known each other for 20 plus years, going back to Millersville
Probably
days.
25 years.
Yeah.
The gray hair is showing, right?
Yes. Yeah. My hair's a little blonder, so it blends in a little bit better. But the House of Pizza in Millersville was Jim Gardner, the former owner's favorite spot to put job postings. And I think that's where Ben found it, because one of my roommates was already on the truck.
Yep.
And then when he left, I kind of filled in for him while I was in school. It was a nice part-time job, pick things up, put them down, pretty easy. Like Ben, transitioned into a little bit of sales after, working with the truck as well. But Jim was gracious enough when I got out of school. I was in IT and did, mostly contract work. And, when the contract's up, you're out of a job. And Jim was gracious enough to always let me come back and fill in, do, jobs here and there. If it was busy enough work on the floor. If it wasn't, help out on the truck. And then, let's say 10 years ago or so, when Jeff said, I was in that in-between job period again, and that's when you guys offered me the position at the new store. So,
Yep.
was there for a
Just
couple of
to
years
kind
before I left.
go to Weaver. Yeah. Just to kind of clue our listeners in, we mentioned Jim Gardner. Obviously, the business that Jeff and I now own and have owned for the last 10 years is his namesake, Gardner's Mattress and More. Used to be Gardner's Bedrooms, Mattresses, and Water Beds, with a bunch of Z's at the end.
Lots of Z's.
He started Gardner's Bedrooms in 1990 in the Regency Square Shopping Center, where we were for our first 21 years of our history. Great dude. He's kind of a mentor to me and of course John, and really anybody that ever worked for him. Kind of took us in. He didn't have any children himself, so he kind of took us in as his non-family sons, right? And a lot of the customer service focus that we have at Gardner's is directly attributed to him. He retired in 2011, and I had worked for him at that point for 11 years and partnered with Jeff, and here we are as Gardner's Mattress and More. But John, you were a big part of that early day success in the early 2000s of Gardner's Bedrooms.
Yeah, and I think obviously you're with Weaver Associates now. I consider that, as a business owner, one of our proudest moments when we could help a team member, build a skill set, advance their career, and whether it's growing bigger with us or growing bigger elsewhere, that's great. So I'm very happy. I've said that to you numerous times, but I'll say it again because it's one of the proudest moments for me as a business owner. So with Weaver Associates, you do a lot of work with nonprofits. Help the Fight's one of your clients. You actually nominated them to be on the show, so thank you again for that.
Yep.
How many nonprofits does Weaver
them.
Associates work with? Yeah, of course. You work with them. How many do you work with? What do you do for them? And why did you start working? I guess really the more important question is, Ron Weaver is the owner of the company. I believe I have that correct. Yeah. What's his belief there to help the nonprofits in the area?
As far as a sheer number, I was trying to come up with that number the other day, and I would say we're probably close to 200 nonprofits that we work with in the area. Oh. And some of that has come from, Ron and I come from a small private school background, and as anyone knows, small private schools are nonprofits themselves and don't have a ton of money. So we started out by, helping some of the local schools with their print needs, getting them some supplies cheaper. We always offer nonprofit rates. So if whether that's a print job or supplies, we offer lower rates to nonprofits. At the end of the year, then when we're, kind of in December time, Ron will then, make donations back to all of those nonprofits that we work with. So he takes a, portion of the proceeds that we make from them and gives back. So nonprofits are very near and dear to our heart. Doesn't really matter what it is. We kind of cover the base with all different kinds of nonprofits.
That's fantastic. So you help businesses obviously with their tech needs, and one of those tech needs is often a printer. We actually invested in a Mambo printer from Weaver Associates, and it's guaranteed to save us toner and ink cost. I know this, but you offer a free printer audit. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yes, we do.
Tell us about that.
Tell us about printer audits, John.
So basically what we would do, now I was very familiar, of course, with the Gardner situation. So I knew, based on my own experience here or there, what their needs were. But let's say if you called me out of the blue, Whether you're a small 5-man shop or you're a big, huge warehouse that has 100 printers, or even an office that has multiple printers. We have a software that we can put on the network. It will basically scan all the printers. We'll let it run for a couple weeks and see what print jobs you're printing to what printers. We know enough about pretty much most of the printers to know where if you're sending volume to a smaller machine, it's going to be a higher cost per page. We can kind of shift that to another machine, or maybe the machines are so old, the cost of supplies is so high, we can make recommendations for new machines that are, like Ben said, the cost of the supplies for the machine that they just bought is going to save them. I'm thousands over the next 5 years in supply costs. That's how much they're going to save. So it's things like that we come in and kind of educate the customer on different printers. We'll explain that the bigger the printer, the bigger the supplies, the lower the cost per page. So while you might shell out a little bit more, at the time of sale, over the 5-year period, which is what we kind of base everything on, you're going to save some money.
Yeah. How does a business request that audit?
Easiest way is to reach out to us by phone. The 717-394-5009. We're always in the office. Sales guys aren't always in the office, but there's always multiple people there. Our website is kind of under construction at this point, so you're more than welcome to go to it, WeaverAssociatesInc.com. But once the website is up, we'll probably have a link to reach out about the audit, because it's something that we talk about a lot.
And you've got some tips for nonprofits. And just the fact that you work with 200 nonprofits locally is, you hear that number. For me, it's a big number, which I guess speaks to the need to help our neighbors out. And so thank you for Weaver for doing that. But the tips that nonprofits can use to save money on their printing, what do you have there to share?
It's usually reaching out to us with, kind of the scope of the job, and, letting us, let's say if it was a nonprofit, they did a lot of printing in-house. We can look at that job and, there's the time of somebody to stand there and watch the machine print. There's, you're buying the supplies, and like anything else, you got to buy a ton of it to get the cost down. So we can look at taking that print, bringing it into our print shop, and delivering it back to them desktop cheaper than they can print it themselves. That's pretty much the biggest tip that we can give to any company, but especially nonprofits that are trying to save as much as they can.
Yeah, and we actually just did that. One of our most recent projects, when we deliver our mattresses to our customers, we have a thank you letter, a little coupon as a new customer welcoming you to the family, a testimonial review form, and a referral form. And that takes a lot of work for our staff to organize that. So now twice a week, Weaver will drop those off for us. So whether it's a big job, a small job, look to John. They've got a lot of tips. Probably, since it's so unique to every business, just give John a call, or Weaver Associates. I believe it's WeaverAssociatesInc.com. You can go there.
Mm-hmm.
And was that 393-5009, John, to get a hold of you?
394-5009.
394. Yeah, don't call 393. 394-5009 to call John, and he'll work you through the best format to maximize your savings on printing. So John, thanks for being with us. I've got a local history nugget, so stay tuned. This one's interesting. Yeah. Hey, remember, this show is also available as a podcast. Find the links at LancasterConnects.com. Please like and share this video. You can leave a comment, tell a friend about this show. We would love to have you do that.